this? How about this? No fucking answer on the phone and no caller ID on the fucking phone. I have no comprehension who it was, but if it's important, they'll call back. Well, let's analyze the situation a little further with this girl. Okay? The suspects were coming in. Now, maybe the suspects would have seen her there and say, you know what, let's just get the fuck out. With or without a gun. The suspects wanted to burglarize the house. They thought it was empty. They see a child there, like, oh shit, we're going to get in more trouble for doing this. Let's get out of here. Maybe that would have happened. Or maybe they would have said, let's go in anyway. From that aspect, there are three possibilities. Neither are very appealing. And it's like one of three, or two of three, or all three. It's like there's three choices. They can choose either one. The first thing they can choose is to grab her, hog tie her, hands and feet, like an animal, and take what they want to take. TV, money, whatever. Video games, whatever. The other aspect is to sexually assault her. And the other aspect is to murder her. Now, obviously, those are fucking barbaric acts to do to a child. It's fucking barbarism. It really is. But suspects don't care. Okay? There are a few criminals that do shit and they feel sorry for it and they get out of prison after 2-3 years and they turn their lives around. And then there are other criminals that don't. Which one are you dealing with? You don't know. There are two ways to determine what a criminal is going to do. Number one, after you know the criminal's name and run their sheet, you can see what their prior arrest record is. Aggravated assault, sexual assault, armed robbery, homicide, drug dealing, whatever. And based on their past behavior, you can predict their future behavior. Predict it with like 95% accuracy. The other way to prove their behavior is to do what? Wait for the crime to already be committed and analyze it afterwards. And that's easy to say if you're just some person that assesses situations. But if you're a flesh and blood human being, especially if you're a flesh and blood human being that's in that situation at the time, you don't want to be like that, okay? It's always that better safe than sorry shit. Was the gun loaded? Was the gun unloaded? Was the criminal gonna kill you? Was he just gonna beat you up? Okay? You don't know until the aftermath. Here's another aspect. The family, according to the news, I don't know if this is correct. It might be correct, but news can be wrong. According to the family, they knew one of the men. Now, when a suspect, most of the time a suspect, excuse me, most of the time a suspect is in a situation where they come across someone they know. Because if the suspect and the victim don't know each other, then the victim is probably, the witness is going to be wrong like 60% of the time, if not more so, according to statistics. Okay? Victims and witnesses really aren't that good and reliable at pointing out people. They point the innocent, the wrong person all the time. But if you know the suspect and the suspect knows you, maybe he's your ex-boyfriend, maybe he's your ex-neighbor, maybe he's the guy you went to school with. Yeah, if you know each other, there's like a very good chance that you're going to ID him positively. And a lot of criminals get that shit. It's always better with no living witnesses mentality in their head. And I'm going to tell you a story. I got to get a little thing out of my notebook. Okay. This is my criminal law class. And I read this pamphlet in the textbook. But the professor handed us the study anyway. Motherfucker, where is it? Okay. Let me see my time while I'm over here. 5 minutes. Okay. I read this case in my law book. The Supreme Court made a ruling. They write the laws. It is illegal to sentence someone to death unless they are 18 years old at the time of the crime. That means a suspect can commit a murder a minute before their 18th birthday, and they can be caught 45 years later. They cannot be sentenced to death. This is why. This kid, Christopher Simmons, age 17, Charlie Benjamin, age 15, and John Tesmer, age 16. I'm going to sum it up a little bit. They wanted to commit a burglary and a murder, and figured they'd get away with it because they're minors. They said our juvenile status will help us get away with it. They wanted to go to a 29-year-old man's house. The man was a convicted felon. They wanted to go to his house and murder him, probably for fun. And they chickened out at the last minute. But they were so hyped up to commit a crime, they decided, let's commit a break-in. So, the three boys, age 15, 16, and 17, broke into a house. They just wanted to break into a house. They were little punks. They broke into a house, and a woman woke up and stumbled upon them. Now, the 17-year-old boy, he had known the woman because they had an accident, a car accident a while back. And they met in the hall, and they knew each other. Because don't forget, they had the accident. They remember each other from that. He's in her house with his two goons. They see each other, and Simmons gets this no living witnesses shit stuck in his head. So this is what they do. They tie up the woman's hands, feet. They blindfold her. They take her to her own vehicle. I don't know if they had the keys or they jump-started. They probably found the keys somewhere. They drive her own vehicle out of the county to another area. The county line might have been 5 feet away. The county line might have been 25 miles away. I don't know. But they drove her out of the county, took her to a bridge, and with her hands and feet bound, blindfolded and gagged, they chucked her into the water alive. And she died. He was sentenced to, I don't know what happened to the other two guys, but the older person, the 17-year-old, the mastermind, he was sentenced to death. Now, he was 29 years old on death row when the Supreme Court got a hold of this case. And the question to the Supreme Court was, should a 17-year-old be sentenced to death? Now, some people are against the death penalty because the death penalty is 10 times more expensive than regular population. Yes, it is. The appellate process and shit like that is ridiculously expensive. And other people are against the death penalty because it is believed that 1 out of every 8 people on death row is innocent. And every once in a while you read about a guy on death row who gets off because DNA proved him innocent. The question wasn't, is death row right, is death row wrong? The question was, does a 17-year-old man, a boy, kid, whatever you want to call him, have the mentality to commit a horrible crime, and should that person be sentenced to death? And the majority of the Supreme Court said no. Because if we execute 17-year-olds today, we'll be executing 7-year-olds tomorrow or some shit. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor dissented in this. She said the sentence of death should stand because of the mentality of the crime. Remember, this is a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 17-year-old. They see a woman, the woman recognizes them, at least one of them gets that will not be no living witnesses shit in their head, we're going to get in trouble, tied her up, put her in a car, drove her out of the county, kidnapping, threw her in the river, murder. Burglary, wrongful imprisonment, grand theft auto, kidnapping, murder. 5 very crucial felonies, if not more. So, If I tell you this 11-year-old girl was trapped in a room, oh fuck on a minute. 10 minutes. I'm gonna sum it up. If I tell you this 11-year-old girl was in her house and 3 teenagers came in, you're like, teenagers, they're not gonna do shit. Tell this lady that teenagers aren't gonna do shit. What if one of those guys recognized her, she recognized him, and what if they had the will not be taken alive mentality stuck in their head? Okay? The moral of this story is a good story because nobody got hurt, good or bad. And I'm glad the girl didn't have to shoot anybody. Because people that kill people have a fucked up mentality for life. It doesn't matter if you're a Vietnam veteran. It doesn't matter if you're a police officer. It doesn't matter if you're a private citizen. Okay? If you take human life, you have a psychological problem for a long time. Probably the rest of your life. And I didn't want this 11-year-old girl to shoot somebody and live the rest of her life knowing that she committed homicide. Justifiable, but still homicide. Because she would have had to have a psychiatrist. She would have had to been going to therapy. She would have been glad that she was still alive. Thank God. And it's better that this 11-year-old girl shoots a suspect than the suspect shoots her. But I'm still glad she didn't have to live with that decision. But this is the perfect example. Teach the kids, stay away from the guns. Teach the kids, the doomsday scenario comes around, all bets are off. Her mother did the right thing by teaching her to use a rifle. She did the right thing by arming herself. And she is alive. She is unmurdered, unsexually assaulted. She is unaggravatedly assaulted. She is unkidnapped. She is unwrongfully imprisoned. Okay? She is still an innocent girl. She still has her body. She still has her life. She still has her innocence. There are no physical scars. Perfect ending. Perfect ending. And it's real hard for me to talk about what could have happened to her because I have nieces and nephews. I have baby cousins. Okay, we all have babies in our families. Kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, sisters, brothers. We all have little kids in our family. We all have little kids we love. So, I got a little shit to take care of. I gotta finish up. I took one final Monday night. I have a final Monday afternoon. I have a final Tuesday afternoon. And the law professor, the term paper is the final. The term paper is self-defense, believe it or not. Yeah, that was my topic, self-defense. So I have to take a test on Monday afternoon, test on Tuesday, go in on Wednesday, and then term paper, I'm done. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. You're definitely not gonna see me again until after New Year at least. I'm still under. You know what? While I'm here, be the first to see it. Well, not the first to see it. My mother had to take it to work to get a stapler at work. Self-defense. Term paper right there. My mother took it to work because she needed a high-powered stapler. The regular stapler wasn't good enough. Regular stapler, what the fuck is it? The regular stapler wasn't good enough, so she had to take it to work. Okay, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.